When his woman was rudely awakened by strange noises outside her house, she could have never known that a wild bear was causing them. The large furry animal was climbing upward into her neighbor's house. It was a terrifying sight. And what made it even more frightening was that, in the end, it turned out to be her fault as well. Woman discovers bear climbing into neighbor's house, not knowing it was her fault. The strange noises started in the early morning. The sun had just risen, and Ellie was planning on getting a few more hours of sleep. But that possibility was gone. Loud noises entered through the open window in her bedroom. "What is that?" Ellie spoke as she put on sweatpants to take a closer look. She followed the sound with one hand over her brow to block Eve followed the sound. It was clear that it originated from her neighbor's garden since the noise was loudest at their fence. Ellie heard trash cans falling. Maybe raccoons? But when Ellie witnessed what caused it, she stepped back out of fright. Moments later, the creature that caused the sound appeared above the fencing. It was a huge brown bear, the largest Ellie had ever seen. The animal used the wooden side panels on her neighbor's house to lift itself upward and was a meter high in seconds. "What the hell?" Ellie said while observing the scene. The image of the bear caused fear within Ellie's body. She stood in the same spot for minutes, unable to move. Ellie witnessed how the bear made it past the ground floor height with ease. It was clear that the woodland creature had a purpose since it shot straight to the house's only open window. Ellie was forced to watch as the bear easily entered her neighbor's house. Until the bear disappeared from view, Ellie still hoped that the animal would lose its grip and fall down. But that was a story she could no longer tell herself. And Ellie knew her neighbor was still sleeping inside. What now? This was horrible. Ellie just spoke to her neighbor yesterday evening. She was an older lady named Margaret, and the two women had a close friendship. But if that bear attacked her in her sleep, yesterday evening would have been their last conversation. Ellie was afraid to head inside, so she tried shouting first. "Margaret, Margaret!" Ellie screamed as loud as she could, making her lungs burn because of it. But there was no response whatsoever from within Margaret's home. The 72-year-old lady wasn't getting any younger, so maybe her hearing didn't allow Ellie's warning cry to reach her. Whatever it was causing a problem. Because Ellie already knew what needed to happen. She had to go into the house herself to get Margaret. Every fiber in Ellie's body told her to run. But she couldn't leave Margaret's life to Faith. So, after giving herself a quick pep talk, Ellie climbed over the fence and landed in her neighbor's garden. Ellie mustered courage and stepped inside. She visited the house daily and always did so with a smile, but not this day. Ellie started her search, but eventually found something far more bizarre than she had ever imagined. And little did the young woman know, it all turned out to be her fault. The first sign of the intruder's presence immediately presented itself. Growls came from the attic. But that didn't make Ellie feel safer standing downstairs in the hallway. The size of this house gave the bear plenty of places to hide, which made a surprise attack highly possible. This thought made Ellie's nerves increase tenfold. While Ellie climbed the stairs, her thoughts lingered. Why did a 600-pound bear go through so much trouble to get inside? Did Margaret leave unsealed food lying around? I also heard that bears are attracted to coffee beans, Ellie whispered as she recited a documentary she once saw. But what bothered her most was Ellie and her neighbor lived in an urban area filled with concrete, where the only greenery found was in backyards. So, the chances of a bear coming here seemed impossible. It wouldn't be long, though, before the bear's reason for being inside the house became clear. A soft growl was heard. Fear shot through Ellie's body again. She had to focus and find her neighbor as fast as she could. At that point, Ellie had reached the top of the stairs and walked across the first-floor hallway. She knew where Margaret slept, so that was the first place she looked. Slowly, Ellie opened the door. Upon opening the door, Ellie immediately found her neighbor. Margaret was sitting in the corner of her room, shaking tremendously. "Margaret, are you hurt?" Margaret stated that she was fine. She was scared, though, because after waking up from hearing a weird sound in the hallway, she witnessed the backside of a large brown bear. "I jumped back, hid in this corner, and have been afraid to move since," Margaret explained. Ellie nodded and said she witnessed the bear climbing through the hallway window. "Where did it go?" Margaret's finger was shaking heavily, but it was clear that she was guiding Ellie's gaze toward the attic staircase. Ellie sighed for a moment but was also relieved. She came here to rescue her neighbor. And with the bear upstairs, they could easily make their escape. But this plan had one problem. Margaret revealed that their kittens were missing. The 4 kittens always nestled in her bed in the morning but never arrived. Ellie told Margaret that everything was going to be all right. Ellie would look for the kittens and bring them back safe and sound. Ellie's confidence was reassuring for Margaret, even though Ellie herself was far from comfortable. With a nervous first step, Ellie started climbing up the attic stairs, while scary attic sounds added tension. The sounds were deep and loud, re-establishing the danger up there. It was the last place Ellie wanted to visit, but immediately after hearing the bear, she unfortunately also heard other sounds that forced her hand. Tiny paws and sharp claws moved across the attic floorboards. Ellie instantly recognized them. "Why me?" Ellie sighed. There was no mistaking it. These paws belonged to their kittens, meaning Ellie had no choice but to go up there. Ellie felt extremely conflicted while standing at the bottom of the staircase. She had to save the kittens but did not want to be in any danger. Ellie's heart was pulsating like crazy. Ellie took a deep breath and gave herself one last pep talk before making the decision to visit the attic space. "Maybe I don't need to enter the attic fully. We can escape fast and easily if I can lure the kittens toward me while standing in the doorway." Yes, that is the plan. Ellie never planned to be a hero, so avoiding conflict was her priority. She just needed to get everyone out of the house and into her garden. If the bear was still inside at that point, all the better, because then she could simply call for backup and let professionals deal with the large animal. Ellie was about to enter the danger zone. The door to the attic was still open a smidge, giving her a way to look inside. The room was too dark to see. But Ellie didn't need her vision to confirm life. High-pitched meows were heard, followed by deep breaths, indicating that both animals were there. Ellie knew the 4 kittens well since she was the first to hold them after birth. Ellie vividly remembered the day. You see, the kittens were strays, and Ellie found them about a week ago. She picked them up from the cold cobblestone streets and brought them here to nurture them back to health. The kittens looked so sad when Ellie found them. They huddled in a dark, wet alley behind the town's bakery. And after hearing their hungry cries, Ellie picked up the tiny animals. She initially wanted to nurture the kittens herself, but eventually brought them to her neighbor, who had more free time on her hands. Margaret was overjoyed when she first witnessed the kittens, and Ellie was happy she saved them. The cats found a new home and were fed and loved by both of them. It was the perfect scenario. But now, just 1 week later, both the new owners and the 4 tiny kittens were in mortal danger. Ellie knew she had to act fast, so at the risk of her own life, she opened the door fully. The attic was large, but a bear could easily cover this distance in seconds. Ellie looked around while the light in the hallway behind her illuminated parts of the floor. 2 kittens were running around. That meant that half of her rescue mission was within reach. The other half, though, would prove to be more difficult. The back half of the attic was shrouded in darkness, and most of the sound also came from that part. Heavy breathing of the bear and high-pitched meows came from the same direction. One thing at a time, Ellie thought as she tried to lure the first 2 cats. She made chirping sounds and placed her body low to the ground. It seemed to work at first because both kittens happily came her way. But the moment Ellie picked one of them up, a loud roar sounded. Seconds later, the brown bear stepped into the light. The young woman took a large step back, thinking her final moments on Earth were done for. But by doing so, she accidentally stepped over the edge of the staircase, making her fall backward. Ellie just managed to hold onto the railing in time, but after regaining, Ellie saw something bizarre. She was convinced that the bear must have attacked one of the kittens by now, but the opposite was true. The four cats weren't afraid at all and were playing around with the bear's legs while the large furry animal looked at them calmly and kindly. What the hell is going on? Ellie thought to herself. Even though the sight in front of her was friendly, she felt hesitant to move. Ellie stayed low to the ground and witnessed the scene unfold. She saw how the bear moved her head downward, lifting one of the kittens up with her teeth. The bear took the cat back to the dark side of the attic, making them impossible to spot again. A scene that made Ellie curious, and that curiosity guided her next move. With trembling fingers, Ellie unlocked her phone and used the flashlight to illuminate the attic. And that's when Ellie saw it. Ellie witnessed the bear sitting calmly on her behind, liking the four kittens who were nestled in her lap. It was amazing to see, but it also provided an opportunity for Ellie and Margaret to escape. After realizing the kittens were safe for now, Ellie ran downstairs and opened the bedroom door. "Margaret, let's go." Margaret was confused since Ellie re-entered the room without their precious kittens. But Margaret's eyes widened when Ellie told the old lady about the scene she witnessed upstairs. Ellie didn't have time to explain things further. She grabbed her neighbor's arm and guided her down to the ground floor and out of the house. Once outside, the two women looked up at the attic window. What happened there was hard to explain, but both women agreed that professionals needed to take over. Ellie called a local rescue team. Luckily, there was one close by, which meant that a resolution was at hand. The phone rang, and a man answered. Ellie explained the situation in the top room of the house and fully expected the sanctuary owner to react disturbed. But instead, the sanctuary owner sounded relieved. The man sighed in a happy tone, which confused the young woman. "What is going on? Do you know more about this?" Ellie said. The sanctuary owner would explain everything once he got there, which was in 30 minutes. Ellie nervously waited while staring at the attic window. And after exactly 30 minutes, the team arrived. Two men stepped out of the truck and introduced themselves as John and his son, Connor. "We're happy that you called." John explained that they had known about the bear for a little over a week now. The large mammal had been spotted across town on multiple occasions. But they were too late to capture it every time. What the sanctuary owner then revealed left Ellie in shock. It was a revelation that explained everything. Is the bear alone in the attic? Or are there four kittens with her? Ellie was confused. She told John about the bear being stuck up there, but never mentioned anything about kittens. So, how could he possibly know this fact? Every time the bear was spotted, the kittens were by her side, John stated. John stated that the bear took over the kittens' care from their original mother. They found their mother near the alleyway where Ellie gathered the four kittens. She was hit by a passing car and unfortunately passed away. And ever since, the bear took over and nurtured the kittens as if they were her own. John and Connor couldn't tell how the bear got into town, but multiple civilians saw her gathering food from dumpsters. Ellie couldn't believe it. When she found the kittens, the bear was nowhere to be seen. She was probably searching for food when I got to the alleyway. But that means, Ellie started weeping. That means that I abducted these kittens from their adoptive mother. The sanctuary owner and his son nodded their heads. It explained everything. The bear located the house because it was searching for its unique family. And it went through all this trouble to get inside because it could hear its kittens' cries inside. Ellie felt a rush of guilt course through her body. She couldn't help but feel responsible for the entire thing. "If I just left them alone, none of this would have happened," Ellie said, crying. The sanctuary team and Margaret placed their hand on Ellie's shoulder and said there was no way she could have known. "You tried to do the right thing," John said. After this, the team ventured inside the house. They brought many things with them, including a large mechanical stretcher to carry the large mammal. Ellie and Margaret waited nervously outside and hoped for a positive outcome. After a few minutes, a large roar was heard. What is going on? Did they get it? After about 15 minutes, Ellie got her answer. The house's back door opened, and the two men stepped outside, pulling the 600-pound tranquilized bear on a mechanical stretcher. The cats ran out of the house shortly after. "What will happen to the bear?" Ellie asked. John explained that the sanctuary would be the bear's temporary home. "We establish her health and prepare her for life in the forest again." Ellie was glad to hear that the two men had the best intentions and watched with a smile as they drove away. A few months passed when suddenly the phone rang. It was John, and he sounded cheerful. He asked Ellie to come to the sanctuary. Margaret also got a call and was already waiting outside with the kittens. Once at the sanctuary, they were greeted by John and Connor. The bear was ready to be released, but they wanted to give her a final goodbye. Margaret and Ellie agreed fully and released the kittens into the enclosure. Everyone watched as the cats ran toward their adoptive mother. It was an incredible sight. Eventually, it was time to go, and the mother bear even let Ellie pick up the kittens. An indication that she accepted them.